Hello friends, my name is RagePanda1, and I know a lot of you are trying to make a difficult decision right now. You'd like to know if you should summon on the Galla Bar event, or should you wait until the Daevala event comes along. Now of course that's going to depend on your account and your level of stones, but I've done a whole lot of testing here, and I have some opinions on the matter. First of all, I'd like to talk about the builds that I recommend for these characters. For the female, I'm going for the full Speedy Boy build. That is energetic, brutal, agile, and focused, and the reason that I'm doing that is because her self-healing is really good, so it justifies the brutal as a survivability tactic. Aside from that, her entangling ultimate is one of the best abilities in the game, honestly. It is an incredible crowd control that I have used to great effect because you don't have to do anything. It hits everybody in a field, CCs them all for 3.5 seconds. You want to do that as often as possible. And it also triggers extended extra healing that is amazing for you. So Speedy Boy build is probably the only build that I would run on her, and I would not trade any of this off even for Devout. I would try to get Devout externally, and if I couldn't, I wouldn't use it. For the male, we're running the same build, except Brutal doesn't do as much for him. His passive does scale off of strength on the priority heal, but it isn't enough to justify having Brutal on the kit. Because of that, we're going to be using Honorable, and the reason we're going with Honorable is because he heals himself like crazy, and he refuses to die even against champions and full teams that are 100 levels higher than him, especially when you go with this build. He wants to do his ultimate as fast as possible so that he can stack up his root stacks, which give him a ton of self-healing, and of course, make him live forever. Unfortunately with this guy, he doesn't move or walk ever. He's a horrible tank. He doesn't tank for you. He will leap in and do his little ultimate to teleport in and save somebody at the beginning of the match, and that's great. It's really helpful, especially if it happens at the perfect time. Unfortunately, his active skill is not working as it says. Now, of course, this is different than what it said before, but now it says when in Guardian form inflicts the entangled effect to 2 enemies with the highest strength for 2 seconds. I've been seeing it hit 3 people consistently. Now, I really hate when they change things last second. They release information to us 2 days before the people come out, and then the information is wrong. I absolutely hate that. It does not help us make informed decisions. So because this only hits 2 people, this guy really drops down in his usefulness a lot. And when it was hitting 5, then it was very strong and you could do some real shenanigans with it. They nerfed the wrong thing. The guy heals himself way too much. The entangle would have probably been fine. The other issue with the male Galibar is that he lives forever, and he will extend your battles to the full 2 minutes, and you will be sitting there waiting or quitting out of a battle that you know that you're gonna lose. He can tank 4 members of an enemy team where 2 of them are 100 levels higher. I got a clip for you right here of him doing it. But that doesn't win the match. If you time out and you were the attacker, you always lose. Either way, it's not worth it because you're gonna lose. There is an exception to that rule, and the exception is that if you're not making this decision on whether or not you want this or the female Daevala, and you already have the female Daevala, then these two are a really annoying team, and he helps her survive, and he helps her win the duels at the end, and it can be a really, really great thing. So if you already have female Daevala and you want to make her even stronger at those endgame duels, then he might be the person to help you do that. In general, I'm not a huge fan, especially because they changed his active skill at the last second, and that was honestly the best part about him. So, however, that being said, I think the female is absolutely top tier, one of the best healers in the game. She also is a frontliner. She can tank more damage than most people except for the male in the game, and I think that she is really, really strong, and she brings a lot to the team, especially with her crowd control ultimate. You will not be disappointed if you start using her. When you see the enemy team standing there doing nothing, then you're just gonna be really, really happy with yourself because it's very fun to have control of the battle. I think it's worth summoning just for her. As far as the male, I think he's only worth using if you're gonna use the female Daevala with him. I just haven't had great success. When you're using the male, I think somebody with a pull can be really helpful to get the teammates close enough to you that your entangle actually does something. A lot of times, the enemy will just stay so far away from him that he entangles and it doesn't hit anybody. It's out of range. So male Daevala can be really helpful for that, but it's still not a perfect science. For both of these champions, you absolutely should be using male Aeson. There is no better person to put them with. I think that they are absolutely a fantastic combo to have together. And the last thing that I want to talk about in this video is something that I think is a failure of mindset of a lot of people in this game, and it's going to lead to a lot of hurt feelings in about a couple of weeks. Look, female Daevala is really good, and she's really annoying, and fighting one on the enemy team sucks. We all know that, and a lot of us who don't have her want to get her so that they feel like they can compete. You feel like you can't compete at all because she's just too broken and overpowered. That is not why you can't compete. If you're finding a female Daevala that you absolutely cannot deal with, they probably just have, number one, a better team, number two, higher vigor levels, number three, higher ascension levels. She's not so strong that she's gonna auto win. And when you're going against people who have a much higher vigor female Daevala, people who have invested in their Guardian Stone, people who have their build absolutely dialed in and their team dialed in around her, you are not going to win. Still, she is not going to change that. You can change that just as easily with any amount of other champions in the game and other builds if you're focused on what you're doing and you're making solid decisions to do that thing. So the thing that I'm afraid of, from the tone that I've heard of the crowd, is that everybody's waiting for female Daevala because then they'll finally be able to win and beat the enemy female Daevalas, and it might not happen for you because you are not likely to farm up your 70 or 80 vigor on your female Daevala, and it's just going to be rough and you're going to feel bad, and I'm worried that people will be so disheartened that they're just going to leave the game because they have the idea in their head that it's going to solve all their problems, and realistically it's not. So if that's part of what you're making this decision on, I don't think that's a good way to make the decision. You don't need her. You aren't at that huge of a disadvantage because you don't have her. You have plenty of ways at your disposal, even with base champions, to deal with her. You can keep her from ulting with the male Yevnayan. The real secret to beating her is just getting her to use her passive before she uses her ultimate. If her life save goes off and then she does an ult, before she gets another ult, she's probably going to be dead. And the way that you can do that is by doing a little bit of energy control, which admittedly is a little harder in the arena, but male Yevnayan will cancel out an entire ultimate bar and then he will stick to somebody and refuse to let them do an ultimate the rest of the time. Female Gultung is great for that. Female Dravapala does some good work in that. You could put Cunning on one of your people. It doesn't seem to stack right now, but that gives you an advantage to get ahead on your energy control team. Again, it doesn't seem to work as well in Arena because you start with half of your energy, but in Valley of Conquerors and places like that, you better believe it's going to be good. Now, when we're talking about Valley of Conquerors, which I am currently not playing on my main account, but when we're talking about Valley of Conquerors, if you're losing to female Daevalas and they're crushing your whole team, that does suck, okay? But getting a female Daevala on your team is not going to fix that problem. If she's decimating 2 or 3 of your teammates and then you win the battle, but you don't get to play anymore because your team is dead, that problem is still going to happen to you. It's not going to save you from that either. Of course, I want to finish that out by saying she's absolutely the best character in the game and absolutely broken, but she's not going to solve all your problems. So I hope that that rant kind of, I don't know. I'm not trying to talk you into summoning on the Galla Bar because I think they're so amazing. I'm just trying to temper your expectations so that you aren't absolutely destroyed in a couple weeks when she comes out and does not fix everything instantly. So that's my verdict on it. If you want to use the thing that is broken and slightly overpowered and you're willing to put in the effort to get the most out of her and you go into it knowing that, then sure, save for the Daevala and you're gonna have a good time and maybe you'll be happy with it if you temper your expectations. However, if you're looking at these champions and you think that one of them or the other looks really, really good and you just want to do it, then you should do what makes you happy. You shouldn't wait for Daevala because you feel like you have to. You should do what makes you happy and then you'll probably be more happy. Now, if you're sitting at 500 stones already, then by all means, throw 300 of them at the Galla Bar, gain some more on the way to the Daevala re-release, and you'll be probably happy with that too. No matter what you decide, I hope that you're having a great time with the game, because that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. It's a game after all. For now, I want to thank you for watching. I have been RagePanda1, and I will see you in the next one.